Now to the fallout from that explosive testimony from former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson during Tuesday's January 6th hearing. One of the key figures mentioned was former White House counsel Pat Cipollone, who has now been subpoenaed by the committee that's investigating the Capitol attack. Committee leaders had initially asked Cipollone to appear, but now they're taking this official step. They made that decision after hearing Hutchinson's testimony under oath, saying that Cipollone had raised legal concerns about Trump.
Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Raffa joins us now. Ali, good morning to you. So Cipollone was described by Hutchinson as one of those last firewalls in the effort to stop Trump on January 6th. What do we know right now about his willingness to cooperate, and how much of a key figure really is he in all of this?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. She mentioned his name quite a few times during her testimony on Tuesday. And we know, as you mentioned at the top there, that he has sat down privately with the committee to answer their questions months ago. But since then, he's been very hesitant to speak on the record, citing executive privilege concerns, essentially saying he's been very, very careful what he can and cannot say about his private conversations with former President Trump to the committee. But then you see this subpoena come out yesterday. The committee saying, quote, they want him to speak for a deposition on Wednesday, July 6th, saying in the subpoena, quote, you've declined to cooperate with us further, including on the record testimony, saying they now have no choice but to issue the subpoena. Take a listen to what really the committee could learn from Cipollone, from the committee members themselves.
He has a huge volume of relevant evidence, and he was there at every level of each of these assaults on democracy and the rule of law.
His knowledge of the propensity for violence that day, his knowledge that the president and others may be breaking the law that day, I think is very important.
And we've heard him mentioned not just in Hutchinson's testimony, but really throughout these public hearings since they began. Remember, in one of the first hearings, Liz Cheney asked Jared Kushner in a pre-recorded clip that the committee played whether Pat Cipollone ever threatened to resign. Kushner really equating his threats of resignation to what he called whining. We heard DOJ officials even say that Cipollone defended and supported them as they were having those private meetings with the former president, that pressure campaign against the Justice Department. And then you heard her say on Tuesday that Cipollone was one of those people who came into Mark Meadows' office and said, you know, we need to do something as the Capitol was being attacked, saying, you know, if someone, essentially Hutchinson saying, I'm paraphrasing here, but her saying that if something happens, someone gets killed, that the blood would be on Meadows' hands, Joe.
So since that testimony from Hutchinson, there has been pushback from some Republicans on some of the things that she said. For example, both Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani have denied that they asked for pardons. And then there were those allegations that she made about an alleged confrontation between former President Trump and members of the Secret Service. How is Hutchinson now responding to some of that pushback?
Yeah, and you also have former White House counsel Eric Hirschman now saying that he was the one that wrote that note that the committee presented, even though Hutchinson under oath said it was her. She even identified the note as her own handwriting. But the committee and Hutchinson, they're both standing by the testimony she gave on Tuesday, the committee calling her still a credible witness. Hutchinson coming out yesterday through her attorneys issuing a statement saying that she still stands behind her testimony and that she's proud of the work that she has done both in the White House and her service to the country through her testimony on Tuesday. And so I don't really think it's surprising that, you know, former members of Trump world are now coming out and trying to debunk or poke holes in parts of her testimony. I think the committee very much expected this to happen, and I think that was really part of their planning in waiting so long to announce just the plans for her to come and testify, why everything was waited until the last minute before it became official, Joe.
I mean, Ali, we know the next hearing isn't scheduled till next month. Quickly, do we know what's next? Where does the committee plan to go from here?
Well, we know they are very much interested, as we mentioned, in speaking with Cipollone. We're also monitoring really the progress they make in trying to talk with Justice Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny Thomas. And we heard in the last hearing that they're now looking into how to prevent any sort of witness coercion or intimidation, that they have evidence has already happened through emails, phone calls, texts against their witnesses that have testified and that plan to come testify. So definitely a lot on their plate the next 2 weeks for this 4th of July recess, Joe.
All right, Ali Rafa, thank you so much, Ali. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.